Was the DLC worth it? Was Legends of the Dead worth it? Well, that's what we're here to find out. I'm going to make this video as short as possible so that you can jump right in or jump right out if you think it's necessary for you to add. So let's just talk about the things that it added, and then we'll go from there. So first of all, I'm a big fan of this new table. As you can see over here on my, I guess it would be his left, his right, so whatever. I'm recording this differently than I normally do, but you understand what I'm saying. So I really like the idea of the map table. I think this offers mods and new DLC an opportunity to like really adjust this to your own personal preference. I would like the things to be like compartmentalized, maybe a little more modifiable like individually, but I guess we'll see what they do with that. Obviously, we have to talk about the two big things. We have Legends and Plagues. The Legend system, I'm actually quite a fan of it. However, I have two big chief complaints that I want to get out of the way first. One, no Legends are there at the start of the game. That feels really, really weird to me. It doesn't feel very organic. There's a lot of, like, say the Legacy of Muhammad or something. Why is it not already there at the beginning of the game? Or even like something in the Holy Land, or something with, you know, the Huns even, or Rome. Like, there should be an inkling of these legends. I think a couple of them like dotted throughout the land. King Arthur, and maybe you have the ability to claim the existing one already, or maybe somebody already has it and you can just claim it after they die, something like that. I don't know. It just feels a little strange that there aren't already a couple in the game that you're allowed to pick, or that you're allowed to see as they grow organically early on. It just seems odd to me. However, I do like the idea that you make a legend, it grows, that you have this sort of storyline that you develop. You can increase the fame of the legend from, I think it's like famous, like mythical, and then legendary or something like that. Obviously, in the video I did the other day, I didn't do that. I just wanted to see the basics of the system, but there's a lot of depth to increasing the quality of your legend. It's a little difficult, which I think is good, because I think that if it was easy, you would basically just see legends sprouting up all the time, which in my experience from the couple games I've played with it, the AI doesn't go too crazy with it, which I think is cool. But that's kind of what I feel about the legend system. I like the idea of the statues, the new unique buildings. Those are also quite cool. Be there. I just like the idea of being able to build cool monuments to yourself and to your deeds. So that one is good. Speaking of new buildings, I didn't touch on this very much. I like the new burial site. I like the fact that this gives you legitimacy and that your legend can spread because of it, but also gives plague resistance. This feels like the best of both worlds, honestly, when it comes to the new DLC. It seems like an actual solid duchy building as well. There's quite a few that aren't that great when you think about it. And then I think we also got hospices. There's another one too, like illuminaries, if I'm not mistaken, which give legend bonuses, but hospices give you plague resistance, and there's quite a few different levels. And I like the idea of adding something like that. So it's sort of like a hospital that you can build. You're like, okay, well, I'm clearly having a lot of problems. I want my place to be safe. I'm going to build a hospice. So now you also have the option to build scriptoriums, which I like. I like the idea of having something where you can increase your legitimacy and your legend spread. And I just think scriptoriums are cool. I've played Pentiment rather. Sue me. I think it's a cool feature. Other basic things that I want to touch on. I like the new UI. I think it's cleaner than it was before. That's really all I have to say about that. But before I jump to Plagues, because I actually like Plagues more, I think the legend system is cool. But to be completely honest with you, I don't know if I really want to mess with it a whole lot more than just like a couple times. I don't think that every playthrough I do, I would be like, I'm going to gun for this really hard. This is the one thing I want to do every time. It's cool. It's a neat feature. I think it's better than some of the features like in Tours and Tournaments, like with the piety, with the pilgrimages, with the tournaments. Not really. I don't know if it's for me better. Even when the thing was announced, I wasn't as excited for the legend system, and I kind of got the feeling that it was going to be cool, but not like anything crazy. It's interesting seeing your legend spread. It's nice getting the modifiers, and some of them are quite busted if you look through and see the ones in the world legends, the ones that people can get. But realistically, it seems like the AI also doesn't really care about upgrading their legends, so I don't think you're going to have to worry about people having busted up worlds. I do, however, really enjoy the legitimacy system, and I do like the two new trees, the legitimacy and the heroic bloodline trees. Those are great, especially if you're like somebody who wants to focus on legends or wants to focus on legitimacy. Legitimacy one seems actually really great. The fact that they can't join factions after a certain point, or are less likely to join, or that you can have another education trait at the end of it, that's crazy. The heroic bloodline ones I'm a little less crazy about, but you can get a saint trait upon completing of a mythical holy legend, which is crazy. There's a lot of cool stuff up there. It seems like, to me, a lot of the time the legacies always felt a little weak, so I feel like those two are actually quite strong and give a lot to their respective systems, so I think that's good. Overall, Legend system, I think it's neat. I think it's cool. I'm not that crazy about it personally. I really dislike the idea that it's not there at the start of the game. It feels quite gamey in that way, but you know, overall, I think it's a solid addition. I think that if you're somebody who's interested in this for like a role-playing perspective, because it definitely adds a lot of role-playing things, definitely jump into it for that. But if it's not something that you care about so much, then maybe just, you know, then you can jump into the DLC for the other thing that's in it, and that's the thing that I actually like more, and that's plagues. So plagues, I only have one here on the map actually that I can show you, the famine fever, which is apparently a type of typhus, but plagues are very cool. I'm a big fan of the stuff that they've added. I actually did a run, which I don't have any footage of unfortunately, but I can describe it to you. Basically, I was playing as the Holy Roman Empire, and I ended up getting measles directly in my capital. My player died, his daughters died. I had a literal almost game over because every single one of my family members died. I just happened to, I guess, have a cousin who was strong. I don't remember what his name was, and I jumped to him in the election. They just were floundering. It was actually, it was chaos. It was really wonderful. I thought it was quite cool. And the fact that you can now build a crypt is also quite awesome. I didn't really touch on the legend artifact, I realized in the last one, but artifacts are, I mean, who cares? It's an artifact. You don't have to do anything with that. Funerals are neat. I actually really like the idea of doing the funerals. So you have a bunch of different options that you can do. You can do them for mourning. You can do big piety gain. You get legitimacy gain, and you get just really all kinds of things that you can do here. I jumped ahead a little bit, but the idea that your legend can spread. I'm just jumping back and forth because my thoughts are only so, you know, so productive. But basically, the fact that your legend can spread and that people can ask you to spread it for you, or like to go to their house and talk to it, or they'll come to you and they'll talk to it and then they'll spread it for you. It's a really cool thing. I like that organically. I also just love the plague system, though. I want to jump back to that. I love how it looks on the map. I love the effects it has. I love the danger of it. I love the fact that courtiers, or I should say court physicians, actually have a purpose now. I love that they can, I didn't even have one, as you saw. I love that they can, you know, control plagues. They can do other research while there's no plagues. I think that that's really smart. I like that I would like to see something like this for all of the features, like all of the different stuff. Realistically, I think that might be a lot to ask, but it could be quite cool. Could add a lot of flavor for somebody who maybe doesn't normally go in on buying a bunch of, you know, stuff, or like putting a bunch of courtiers in those positions. Maybe it'll give people more incentive to do so. Also, I do want to point out, I keep jumping back to Legends. As you can tell, Legends is the one I have more of a problem with, otherwise I wouldn't be talking about it so much. There's a lot more Legends in Europe than there are in anywhere else, really, which is going to be disappointing for some people. I think that's something that needs to be pointed out, something that needs to be said. It's just the reality of it. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm not surprised, because Europe is the place people play the most often in these games, but it's just, I guess, the way it is. One thing about the plagues that somebody I actually know pointed this out to me that is a little weird is that, so they don't affect men-at-arms, and they pointed this out and they were like, why don't they maybe, especially if they're in a region, especially if it's in a region where maybe you have them stationed, like, shouldn't it affect them, like maybe lower their numbers, but it's not, you know, like a permanently, I mean, it's a plague, it should be serious, right? Or maybe when they walk through it, you suffer like severe casualties, which doesn't really happen. They're not affected other than visually, I don't think. And that is a great point, because I think it does affect levies. And so that's something that should probably be looked into. I'm sure a modder might mess with that a little bit, but it feels like there should be more consequences to plagues. Like, family members dying is big. I only died in that one run, and I've played with it now for maybe like, I would say like maybe 10 hours. I've jumped around, I've done a couple different runs, and I only died from it once, so I'm glad that it's not as severe as I expected. I've not seen the Black Plague or the Black Death yet, so I can't speak on that, but it looks quite cool, and I think that it's like a fun sort of endgame crisis that you have to manage, so that'll be quite cool. Overall, though, I said I wasn't going to make this very long, so I don't want to keep rambling, but overall, I think that the DLC is very good. It adds a lot of features that feel like they should have been there the whole time, or they feel like they fit organically into the DLC as a whole. Or into the game as a whole. This is very rambly if you couldn't tell. I'm very professional. I'm a professional YouTuber, as you can see. But for me, the legend system is much weaker than the plague system. The plague system is definitely is to me, in my opinion, the thing that you would come here for. Whereas the legend system is just, it's cool, it's neat, it's okay, it's neat. If I'm doing a role-playing game, let's say, and I have a family member die from the plague, that's going to be huge. Say I build a crypt in my thing, say I'm doing a funeral now for them, like it's a lot of stuff that you are now getting to do organically, and it adds a lot of flavor to the game. I think legends are cool too. I think they also offer a lot of role-playing opportunities. It's just something about them feels really gamey to me. Maybe somebody in the comments will be able to better articulate it than I can, but it's just something about it feels quite, I don't know. It just feels like it feels gamey. That's the best way I can describe it. But that's really my thoughts on the DLC. If I had to give it a rating, if I had to recommend it, I would say it is worth it. I think it's cool, but I don't know if it adds enough to where I'd be like crazy excited about it. I'd probably give it like a 7 or an 8 out of 10, like a B. Solid B, like maybe B minus. It's cool, it's interesting. It doesn't do enough. Maybe that might be like a C, I don't even know. It doesn't do enough for me personally where I'd be like, oh yeah, you have to like run out and go get it. I would say maybe if it goes on sale, grab it. If not, I don't know if you're going to be missing too much. I do like the plague system, so I think the game is better with it. But again, the legend system, I probably could have done without it. I honestly, I don't care about it as much as I expected I would. I'm more excited for Roads to Power than anything else at this point, so we'll have to see. But that is going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Soul. This has been a ramble about my thoughts about the DLC, and I will happily see you in the next one.